Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Ann Reynolds, and as you can see, I was a public school teacher for 35 years. I retired a few years ago, but to be quite honest, I really missed the teaching. So Arlen has given me this opportunity to offer what I have. And one of my favorite things that I used with my students was Brain Gym. So I'm going to give you some basics as to where this kind of comes from and the science behind it. So let's go ahead and get started. My intention is to empower people in increasing the control of their environment and their own lives. And that was true for my students. That's true for my coworkers. And it's true for what I want for you. I also want people to become more informed about energetic medicine and the innate wisdom of your body. There's a lot of tools that we can use with students that I think a lot of people don't realize because it's not really prevalent in our culture. Brain Gym is one of those things. Now, Brain Gym was developed by Dr. Paul Dennison and his wife. If you can take a look here at my screen, this is the original book on Brain Gym. You could probably get it through interlibrary loan. It is pretty old, but it's also very little. Now, there's other periodicals and other books that they have, and they do have trainings, and they have trainings for teachers all over the place. But I would check out their materials through interlibrary loan because this book costs about $30 and it's about the size of a McDonald's napkin. So, you know, make your choices. But their later books have more information and more material significantly. But you can check them out at braingym.com. Now, Brain Gym is a very basic type of body work, and a lot of people really don't know what body work is, but this is not a complete list of body work, but it's a good start. If you jog to reduce stress, that's body work. If you like to lift weights, if you like to cook, lots of different things can act as body work. Some of these are more medically or exercise based. Acupuncture is an example of body work. Conscious breath work can really reduce stress drastically. I used conscious breath work a lot while I was teaching. I would do it on the weekends. I would do it after a stressful day. You would have to go get trained to kind of have an experience so that you know how to use conscious breath work, but it's very, very effective. Energetic medicine is an entire field of medicine, and energetic psychology is a new branch of psychology. EFT, which, do I even have it on this list? It's not on this list, but EFT is a type of energetic psychology. EFT is where you actually tap on pressure points or acupuncture points to alleviate stress or mild phobias, things like that. Guided imagery, herbal therapy, massage, meditation, pressure points. With pressure points, I was trained in pressure points early in the 2000s. My actual job was at a high school, and I was a health teacher. So I went and got additional trainings for the benefit of my students, and pressure point therapy was one of them. Progressive relaxation was one of the most favorite things that I did in my classroom. If you were to ask my students, it's very effective, but I ended up using it as a reward and a carrot to get them to be to class on time as a collective unit, to cooperate with one another. And I would use that on a Friday, and they absolutely loved it. And it's where you tense different muscle sets and then relax for about 5 seconds, and you change your breathing. Reflexology is pressure points specifically on the feet that can help with different types of medical things. Reiki is a type of energetic medicine, and if you if you don't know what Reiki is and you've never heard of it, that's the correct spelling, and you can look it up and you can check. A lot of massage therapists use combinations of pressure points and reflexology and Reiki together, and you would never know. It just enhances the effectiveness of their work on you. Tai Chi is a slow moving martial art, and that massages the different meridians in the body and allows them to work better. And that's actually what we're going to be doing today, is adjusting the meridians of the body so that things function better. Thought-filled therapy is very similar to the emotional freedom technique. And that's another part of energetic psychology. You can look any of these up, investigate them, see if they interest you. Yoga is another one. It's a good type of exercise. It's good stress relief. A lot of people do it in their PE classes. But now, what we're talking about today, because I'm going to have you do brain gym in just a few minutes, and all of those previous modalities, they use or affect these meridians in the body. This is a picture of a poster I have of some of the meridians in the body. And you can see, if you look closely, that there's lines through the body. At each one of those symbols, that's actually a Chinese term for that specific acupuncture point. These are used in acupuncture, they're used in pressure point therapy, they're used in massage. And with brain gym, what happens is, and even in your own life, if you jog to reduce stress, the whole point is that the massaging, the muscles as they move, massage the meridians. And when you have pain or discomfort, you have energy somewhere along these meridians caught or stuck. And the idea is to get them to flow harmoniously. We all have a couple of weak meridians. There's 12, depending on what system you're talking about, there's 12 or 14 meridians. And there's major organs. You have a heart meridian, you have a lung meridian, you have a liver meridian, you have a spleen meridian, you have a stomach meridian. You know, those are some examples. And when you have a gallbladder meridian, when you have an issue with the gallbladder, it doesn't mean that the meridian disappears. It just means that it's not functioning. Sometimes they'll run backwards because you have a cold or a flu, or you're tired or run down. But the best thing is if they're balanced and they're flowing. My point is that I'm going to teach you brain gym today, but it's not a parlor trick. There really is science behind this. And I dedicated a large portion of my career and my intent on studying these systems and getting trained in different systems for the benefit of my students and for the benefit of myself and my friends and my family. I use pressure points frequently. I use stress relief frequently. Not as much as when I was teaching, because I have been retired for a few years. But this is what brain gym is affecting, is the flow of these. There's a long history of science. And I just want you to understand that it's not, this isn't a trick. Now, to my knowledge, Dr. Dennison studied with Donna Eden. And this is, I think, one of Donna Eden's first books. It's Energy Medicine. And she still has trainings. And I have been to a number of her trainings in the Chicago area. I believe she has them in St. Louis, California. Hawaii would be a nice place to go. I believe she lives in the Seattle area. So both brain gym and the Eden method, they both have trainings, and their information is very, very similar. My hope is I would like teachers to get trained in one or the other or both, and then for school districts to have a resource person, because certain kids have problems with computation and other kids have problems or challenges with reading, and depending on what activities they need certain exercises that will adjust for those. And they may have to use those exercises longer than somebody else that doesn't have that same issue. But Donna Eden and Brain Gym, they both have trainings, they both have books. Just check out their books at a library. That would be an easy place to start. Now, with Brain Gym, I used this for years, and I taught it to my students, and many of them would report back to me that they would use it before they would write a paper. They would use it before they took their exams or a test, especially something that was challenging for them, like math. I really recommended it when they had to like pay for some of their entrance exams, or they had to take some of their standardized tests, because those are so exhausting. And kids would report back to me that it made it much easier and they were less frustrating. And I believe just naturally that their scores would at least be a little bit higher. I don't know any direct research. I would be interested. That would certainly be a fun research project for somebody to get involved with, you know, utilizing Brain Gym, and then a control group not using it and seeing what their scores are like. This can be used for writing, computation, test performance. It can be used by you when you're run down. Have you ever had one of those days when you're just completely foggy and you can't keep anything straight, or you're tripping over your words? Next opportunity you get, go to a restroom, lock yourself in a stall, and use Brain Gym. I know that when I was teaching, I had kids actively shutting themselves in restrooms using Brain Gym so that they could feel better. Now, I used Brain Gym. I'm going to tell you a little story, and in the meantime, you can kind of assess your body and mind, and just notice how you feel, because we're going to talk. I want you to assess it before you use Brain Gym. Oh, we got a bell ringing. School's out here. I'll wait until it's over. Notice how you feel. Notice your thoughts. Pay attention to how your body feels. Are you tired? Are you irritated? Are you stressed? And that's kind of your starting point today. Now, I learned Brain Gym, I want to say early in the 2000s, 2003, 2005, somewhere around there. And the paper that I had Mr. Peebles make available for you is a description of the steps of Brain Gym that I wrote up and I gave to my students in high school health class for many years. There's an announcement going on. Let me just pause for a minute until they're done. When I learned Brain Gym, the woman who taught it to us at a health training down at Starved Rock, she was 52 at the time that she went and first got trained. And she had 7 kids in the back of her elementary school classroom. I think it was third grade, that were just completely out of control. And she said they were bouncing off the walls, literally, like standing on the chairs, walking on the desks. And it was totally up for grabs. And she's like, I have 8 years until I retire. I can't do this. I can't do this for another 8 years. And so to get herself out of the building for a day, she took a look at some trainings that were available, and she happened to find her way to a Brain Gym training session. She went, learned the techniques, and was like, oh my gosh. Went back to her classroom, same 7 kids jumping off the chairs, bouncing off the walls. And she started doing the exercises with the rest of her class that were trying to stay in their seats. And they were able to focus and get their work done, regardless of the 7 in the back. Within about 3 days, the 7 kids in the back are like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And they started to do the exercises with the rest of the class. Within a week, she said, I did not even recognize my class. And she said, it was October and we were so far behind. She said, using Brain Gym, almost daily. She said I was able to catch them up by March, and they were with their peers. And she said I was able to teach out the remainder of my 8 years in education. When I had her teach me brain gym, she was in retirement and she had had a stroke and she was walking with a cane. But she was so sold and believed so deeply in brain gym that she would travel to teach other teachers about brain gym. And since that time, I used it religiously in my classes, and many students talked about how effective it was. So we're going to go ahead and start this process, and I'll probably be flipping back and forth between some of these because I have the description of the exercise and I have pictures of an example for you. A friend of mine's daughter that I took pictures of doing the exercises. What I would like you to do is do the exercises and see if you feel any different after this. And then I'm going to give you an example of a pre-test, post-test that you can use with your students and see if it has an effect. So here we go. Now there's 7 steps to brain gym, and 2 of the 7 are drinking water, okay? Not coffee, not tea, water. So please have a couple sips, half a cup, 8 ounces, really no more than that. When I would teach this in my classroom, many kids didn't have any water with them. So I would take them on what I called the shortest field trip ever, and we would march out into the hall and get a drink, and then I'll come filing back in, and then we would continue the rest of the steps of brain gym. Now the energy yawn, we're going to start with that one. When I give you a time limit of like 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, something like that, you can decide for yourself if you're doing it or your guidelines with your students. It doesn't have to be a full 2 minutes, but if somebody really needs this step, it makes sense. They're going to need it a little bit longer than somebody who doesn't need that particular step. And the more you use this, you'll be able to feel who needs what. Or you can just go with a minute or 30 seconds. Anything is going to help. But I put those on there arbitrarily just to give my students some guidelines. But I would say a minute on all these steps would probably have an effect, have a positive effect. So what I'd like you to do is take 2 fingers and you're going to go to the back of the jaw on both sides of your face and make yourself yawn once or twice. Once you do this, make yourself yawn for once or twice, you will probably start to yawn naturally. I'm going to go ahead and start a stopwatch for us for all these steps. And this is where I'm going to click and show you. This is essentially the energy yawn. So go ahead and find that mandible joint right here in front of your ear, and just go ahead and just gently rub it. Doesn't have to be firm. Gently rub it and make yourself yawn a couple times. I'm timing this, so you don't have to worry about anything. You can just kind of bliss out. Make yourself yawn. And if you yawn during the other steps, it's absolutely fine. Your body is relaxing. It's kind of smoothing out. You can follow along on your paper for all the steps we're going to do. Again, I'm managing the clock. And if you can't find this joint, or if you have to describe it for your students, you can open your mouth and feel that muscle right in that joint. You can close your eyes while you do this, because I'll bring you back if I'm going to change the screen. Your body might sigh Your eyes might water. All of those things are natural and to be expected. Next step. Now with the Lazy 8, this is actually an electronic connection. So once you place your fingers on your face, please don't take them off until we're finished with this. Okay? You can read through this and then we'll go ahead and start this and I'll show you the picture. You're going to place 2 fingers between your eyebrows. Don't start yet. You're going to draw your fingers along the top of your left eye. This is going to be opposite. I'm going to show you top of your left eye. So I'm going to be opposite, but it's going to go around in kind of an infinity sign around your eyes. You're going to go up over the bridge of your nose, over the top of the right eye, then under the right eye. This should make a sideways 8 or an infinity pattern on your face. You can rub as softly or as firmly as you wish. Do this for about 2 to 3 minutes. You might yawn. Allow your body to do what it needs to do. This is the picture of my friend's daughter. And I'm going to have you go ahead and place your fingers between your eyebrows. And we're going to go ahead and start. And drag it across your left eye, underneath. You are welcome to close your eyes during this process. Please don't take your fingers off your face. This is an electronic connection, and you don't want to break it. Again, you can just take a little break. I'm watching the clock. You may yawn, you may sigh, your eyes may water. All of those things are natural and, in fact, are desirable because you're just allowing the brain to move from the right to the left side without interference. And you're kind of smoothing those patterns out on those meridians. You might find that your thoughts kind of start to relax and you forget what you were thinking about. In the US, we have a tendency to carry too much energy in our bodies, and that causes us a lot of stress and it can cause the body to break down. You'll find that your students that are well cared for, my friend's daughter Vesta is an example of a kid who's well cared for. She's well rested, she's well fed, she's not overbooked, she's emotionally supported very well. And when I taught her brain gym, she said, I do a lot of these instinctually. And I wasn't real surprised, because people who are in tune with themselves will instinctually reset their own bodies. But your kids that are in the middle and your kids that are in the lower end of certain subjects and they struggle, they would be largely benefited from this. They would notice the biggest difference if you utilize brain gym with them. Now, the next time you come around, please just stop your fingers right in the middle and just hold them there for a few seconds. I'll tell you when to release. And you can go ahead and release. For that one, I just hold it for about 20 or 30 seconds and then allow the fingers to release from the face. Now with hookups, I'm going to show you the picture very quickly because it explains everything to you. You're going to cross your ankles and you're going to cross your hands at your biceps. Please have your thumbs on the inside of your biceps towards your ribs and your hands on the outside of the arms. Now, if you happen to have a stuffy nose, And you're just going to sit here and breathe quietly. If you have a stuffy nose, I, for years, had a chronically stuffy nose. On the picture to the right, hold your tongue to the roof of your mouth. And as the meridians go, what happens is you are connecting the central meridian by holding that tongue up, and you're allowing the charge to smoothly travel through the body. So you have the picture. I'm going to back up to the description, and I'll start the clock. So have your ankles crossed, have your arms crossed, and you can sit quietly. You can close your eyes. I'm going to go ahead and start the watch, and we're just going to sit here for a minute. And I'll read the description to you. The hookups is sitting quietly, cross both arms, hold your upper arms with the opposite hand, cross your ankles, and place your tongue on the roof of your mouth. If you struggle to breathe through your nose, place the tip of your tongue on the roof of your mouth and breathe around it. Preferably, breathe through your nose quietly and deeply for the duration of this step. Do this for about 2 minutes. And then after that, we're going to rub our hands together, but not yet. We're still holding this position. And again, you can have your eyes closed for the duration of this. I'll tell you when to release. Again, you might sigh, you might yawn, you might forget what you're thinking about. And now go ahead and release. And please put your hands together and rub them together just like this. I apologize, that's one picture I do not have on. Good. Now the calf pump, this is the only one that you have to get out of your chair for. This is a classic hurdler stretch or runner stretch. I'll read the description and then I'll show you the picture, and then I will time it. I'm not going to get up and do it because it's not really going to have a point. You're really only going to see my shirt. So you're going to step 1 foot towards the front and 1 out towards the back. And you want to have the back toes pointed forward. Try not to have your back ankle turn out on the back foot. You're going to want to bend at the knee on the front leg until you feel a stretch in the back of the leg behind you. This is a classic runner's calf stretch. Hold the stretch for 10 seconds. Stretch out of this. I'll count you through it in just a minute. I also want you to see the picture before we actually start. Stretch out of this by coming back up on the toes of the back foot and go back down into the stretch again. Hold again for 10 seconds. Step out of the stretch. Repeat this process for the opposite leg. So I'm going to show you the hurdler stretch. So if you could, wherever you happen to be, Illinois, Las Vegas, wherever, please stand up, and just like the picture, please put 1 leg back and 1 forward, and then drop. If you can take a look at that picture on the right hand side, drop down with that front knee until you feel a stretch in the low back and in the calf of your back leg. And we're going to hold that. So have your knee bent and stretch down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Stand up. Same side. Stretch again. Bend the knee. Stretch down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And stand back up. Last one for that side. Stretch down, bend the knee. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Thank you. Now please switch legs. Have your other leg forward and the opposite leg back. And now bend the front knee until you feel a stretch in the back. We're going to do 3 on this side as well. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And stand up for a second. Second stretch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Stand up for a second, take a break. Last one. Bend your knee till you feel a stretch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, have a seat. When you do this with your students, that's the only one that they have to get out of their desks for. The other ones they can use comfortably at their desk, and in fact, they can use the other ones comfortably in another class, and teachers wouldn't even know. I've had many students report that, and I've recommended that as well. Now, the thinking cap. If you have a student who is adverse to testing, or they get really stressed, or somebody throws a pop quiz at them, the thinking cap activates the brain, and because you're rubbing the ear. In Chinese medicine, there are acupuncturists that specialize in acupuncture only on the ear, and it's called auricular acupuncture. I believe there's a few auricular acupuncturists in Chicago. But because it has such a powerful effect on the brain, because it's so close to the brain, that just shows you that there's people who can have an entire profession on just doing work on the ear because of what it does for the brain. So if a student finds themselves in a situation and they don't have time to prepare, they can do the ear massage or the thinking cap, and it will help. And no one really needs to notice. It just can look like they're itching their ear. So with this one, I'm again going to start a clock, but we're going to do just a simple ear massage. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. You're going to start at the top edge, and please use both hands. And you're going to start at the top edge, and you're going to roll that cartilage out, just a little mini massage between your index finger and your thumb, and work all the way down the back edge of the cartilage. I'll read this as you do that, and I'll start a clock as well. And with your thumb and forefinger, begin at the top of the ear and roll out the folded cartilage on the top of the ear, near the head, down to the outside bottom of the ear. Rub the entire ear, and you may even tug and pull it away. You can kind of pull it away and kind of stretch it a little bit from your head. I know it seems silly. Pull down on the bowl of the ear. Take care of your piercings. I have some too. And then with the earlobe, you can just kind of pull it out or wiggle it. I also take 2 fingers and put it right in the middle of the ear and press in and give yourself kind of a massage. Then you can go up and you can do it again if you'd like, because we need to do this for probably about a minute. Be gentle, doesn't have to be hard, doesn't have to hurt. And then rub the inside. I take 2 fingers and just rub the entire inside against the head. And then maybe pull it out one more time. And that's good. Now, the last step is, it's really tough, but it is important because most of us are dehydrated all the time. you've already metabolized that half a cup that you had earlier. So now we're going to boost your system again. We are essentially a large battery and we don't have enough water. And if you don't have enough water in a battery, it doesn't work well. So please take a couple sips. And that is it for the steps of this basic form of brain gym. Now, what I would like you to do, and Mr. Peebles had asked, if you have some results, please list them on chat. Now, please reflect on your body and your mind and assess it. Does it feel different? How does it feel different? Do you feel calmer? Do you feel more at peace? Do you feel a little bit refreshed? Just take a minute. Pay attention to how you feel. Now, I'm going to give you a description of a pre and post test that I used with my students. And this was taught to me by the woman that I learned brain gym from. And it would kind of send home the message with my students that this stuff actually works. I would have my students take one sheet of paper out of their notebook and clear everything else off their desk because I didn't want them distracted. So they'd have one sheet of paper, and I would say to them, we're going to do a pre-test, then we're going to do brain gym, then we're going to do a post-test, and we're going to compare the pre-test to the post-test, and we're going to see how you do. So I would tell them, I want you to write for 30 seconds. And however you do the pre-test, I want you to do the same thing with the post-test. You can use individual words. You can use sentences. You can just use thoughts. It doesn't matter to me, and don't worry about spelling. But however you do the pre-test, I want you to do the post-test the same way. And I would never tell them what they were writing about, which is the whole point. I don't want them thinking ahead of it. So then finally I would say, is everybody ready? Everybody have a pen, pencil, they're a little piece of paper. And then I would have my stopwatch, and I would say, I would like you to write anything and everything you could think about mountains. And I would start my watch, and I would time them for 30 seconds. And they would scribble as many things as they could. And then I would stop them at 30 seconds. I would have them draw a line because I didn't want them to confuse their pre-test with their post-test, and turn the paper over because I didn't want them distracted by their words or correcting their spelling or doing whatever. Then I would hand out the instructions to brain gym. We would do brain gym, and then we would do the post-test. I'd have them turn their paper over, and then I would say, this time, do it the same way, complete sentences, short words, short phrases, whatever you want, but just do it the same way you did the pre-test, because otherwise you can't compare them. They're not the same thing. So I said, after we did brain gym, for the post-test, write anything and everything you can think about the ocean, and I would start my stopwatch. And what was fun about this is you're doing an active experiment with kids in class, and they love that. They really do. Not to mention that this increases the quality of their life, and it makes reading, writing, and arithmetic and homework less arduous. It makes it, for kids who struggle, it makes it less challenging, makes it easier. Now, across the board, when they would do brain gym and then they would do the post-test, kids would have 1 to 2, I think the most I ever had was 5 words more, but they either had the same number of words or they had more words. The other interesting thing is they would have a tendency to have a higher level of diction. Their words would be more complex. their words would be more colorful, and the figure eight, that allows the brain to work more effectively right to left. And so there'd be more color, it would be more interesting, their level of vocabulary would be more complex. And I would tell students, and many times students would say, well, it's only 2 words. And I'm like, yes, it's only 2 words. You only wrote 2 words more. But we only wrote for 30 seconds. How many hours, how many days, how much of your life do you spend doing homework, writing papers? How many of you sit down and we would have this conversation, because I would tell them, look, I used Brain Gym to get through my doctorate, and I don't think I would have made it without it. And that's true. And I would say, how many of you sit down to write and you get ready and you're like, I'm not comfortable, I've changed my clothes, and you go get sweat on, and then you come back and you're getting ready to do your homework and you're like, I need a snack. And so you go get something to eat, and all the kids in my class are like, oh yeah. I said, or how many times have you read a paragraph of reading you're supposed to do, and you get down to the bottom of the paragraph and you know you read it, but you don't remember anything? Because their brains and their bodies aren't ready to learn. So this can help them with all of that. It will decrease the time it takes them to do homework. It will increase the quality of their homework. It will increase the quality of their test results. It will decrease frustration. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. And I am very willing to open it to questions, because that is the end of my presentation. I do hope that some of you try this out with your students, see if it works. I hope that some of you get trained sometime. And I wish you luck, because it's been a very fun bit of information that I've used for years. So thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Or maybe it's an Arlen Talk.
I can't take credit for that. That's great. We'll just call it your ELN Talk.
Okay, that's the deal.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much for this information and actually going through the process with us. And I think that my biggest takeaway is it's called Brain Gym, but so much of it happens with the body.
Yes.
So that's very interesting, to that mind-body connection. I'm feeling very much refreshed and a lot more clarity than when we started. So let's go to chat. If you want to ask a question on the microphone, just raise your hand with the tool at the bottom, in your bottom toolbar, and I can unmute your microphone. But it looks like we've got some questions in chat already, so we'll go to those. And we've got plenty of time to address your questions. So think of them, type them in, whatever you'd like to do, raise your hand. We'll make sure we get your questions answered. This one comes from Bonnie. Where did you get trained and how long did it take, Ann?
I did a very quick training. Now there's a certification process, which I do not have. This was a very quick training through the health network, health teachers in Illinois, and they would have weekend conferences. And that's where I met the woman that trained me. And I'm sorry, it was so long ago, I do not remember her name. But if you go to their site, braingym.org, or is it .com? .org, you will be able to see various places where they have their trainings. And to begin with, I'd even start simpler than that. I'd get a book on interlibrary loan, or take a look at the books that are available on their site. Their site is based in California. And so it did take me a while to get this book that I have. But some of their trainings can be really in depth, but you might also just want to take these instructions and play with them and see if they work with your students. But check it out on all fronts. Internet, library, that would be a good place to start.
And I think that answers Karen's question. You can let us know, Karen, in the chat. She also, where can you get training? So I think that covers it for Karen. If you have a follow-up, feel free to type it in. Tabitha says, I missed the first few minutes. Will this work with any grade level?
To my knowledge, yes. The woman that taught me, she had early elementary. I used it in high school. As an adult, I've used it. So, and I do want to say some of the terms may have changed because I am aware that a while ago they started doing research with people that have dementia. Now, the names of these different steps are kind of elementary because that's where they first started using Brain Gym, is with little kids, elementary kids. And so they're kind of, the thinking cap, they're kind of a childish name. They may have actually changed some of those terms because I know that they were having great effect with people that had dementia. It allowed them to be cognizant more of the day and to be able to interact with other people. And so I know that they were doing research, and I know that they were considering on changing some of the names, just to give you an idea. So if you don't come across these same names, it's probably because they've altered them to make them more kind of general use.
Okay, great. And Courtney says this is a great follow-up. She'll try these with her pre-K kids because they need to focus for sure. That's great, Courtney. Glad we were able to share some strategies for you. Sarah says, you mentioned Arlen provided a paper to participants and I didn't receive anything. Where can I get this? That is my fault, Sarah. I did not get the handout to you all in time. So I will follow up with everybody when I have the recording ready. So you'll be getting the recording, the PowerPoint as a PDF, and then the handout that has the Brain Gym steps on it. That I believe, Ann, is that what the document has on it?
Yes, the document really has, it's got the Brain Gym website and it has the 7 steps that were in the PowerPoint today.
Okay, Bonnie's got a great question here. Do you use any of the alternative techniques with your students, like energy medicine or Reiki?
Yes, when I was teaching health, I allowed students to do one of their assignments, 2 of their assignments in my class was they had to do a project, but they could pick their projects. So frequently I would have a kid that would pick acupuncture as a project or Reiki as a project. And I did teach them a little bit of energetic medicine. And I taught them, I'd spend like a day on pressure points so that kids could do things for themselves, like alleviate migraines or alleviate headaches or put themselves to sleep at night. One of the best results I ever had, it must have been 12 years ago. I had a young woman, high energy. She talked real fast. She was real petite. She'd bounce all over the place. And I would watch her and I would think, I bet you she can't turn her mind off when she goes to sleep at night. And so when I was teaching pressure points, I would, like if kids had, injured knees or whatever, I would copy off Xerox copies of different pressure points and kids would get whatever pressure points they wanted. So when I offered the pressure points for insomnia, that young woman was like, oh, I want one. So I made sure she got a copy. And she came back the next day and said, I have to tell you something. And she said this to the entire classroom. She said, I have a heck of a time going to sleep at night. She goes, and I got into bed last night and I did exactly what you said. I had the piece of paper, I pulled my covers up and I looked at the points that you told me to use. And she said, and I started using the points. And she said, this isn't going to work. And she said, and the next thing I knew, she said, I only got to, now for that particular pressure point application, there's 11 points. And the last points are the ones on your feet. She only got to the points at about her waist level. And she said, the next thing I knew, my alarm went off and that piece of paper was still laying on my stomach. She said, I didn't move all night. She said, this stuff really works. So yes, there's lots of things that I found I could share with kids in a health classroom that benefited their lives that have to do with alternative medicine.
Wonderful story. Thank you for sharing that. And Bonnie's got a follow-up question, was your school open to the use of these techniques, or did you have to show that this is based on science and works?
Sometimes. There were times that I had struggles, and it wasn't anything that I made people participate in. You know, I didn't line up students and poke them with acupuncture needles. You know, it was my take was, this is medicine that is available worldwide, which is a fact. And there are things that when you come of age as an 18-year-old, if you don't know the term Reiki, you can't possibly look it up. If you don't know that there's an acupuncturist in the area, you aren't going to know that that's an option, because it has to do with our culture. But my take, and I did go, you know, my school would send me, and I got trained in pressure points, and I got trained in muscle testing, and I got trained in different things. But I also presented, and I was professionally very active in my career. In fact, it made such a difference in my life. It is actually why I got my doctorate. And my doctorate was measuring if the emotional freedom technique decreased stress in teachers. And that because I did a classic study with a test group and a control group, and it dropped their stress levels like rocks. But it was because I was introduced to this because of my own health struggles. So that all started to happen in the 90s. So that was like in another lifetime. It is a mixed bag. I did have struggles, but I also had a lot of awards. I got a lot of recognition for my school. And the feedback that I kept getting from parents was most parents wanted to take my class. There were some people that didn't like it, but then, you know, so they could take their kids out of sex ed too. So their child would go to the library, or they would go sit out in the hall, or, you know, if it was that big of a deal. In most cases, you know, I was like, it's just a type of worldwide medicine, you know, so that was my argument.
Wonderful. Bonnie says, thanks for those additional thoughts. Dr.
Sure.
Reynolds, we really appreciate your presentation today. Very wonderful information, and loved how hands-on it was. I will be following up with everybody on Monday with a link to the recording, the PowerPoint, and the handout that's got all the Brain Gym steps on it. Looks like I don't see any other questions in chat. If you want to put your thank yous in there for Dr. Reynolds, that now will be the time. And we will allow you to, as you need to, hover at the bottom of your screen. A big red button will appear in the lower right that says leave this meeting, and you are free to log out of the session for today. Thanks everyone for your participation.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Peebles.
Yep, my pleasure. Happy to have you.
Arlen, do I click on stop share?